Let's get started, everyone. Hi and good evening. I'm Shauna Presley Vircher, the political fixer, and this is a national update on Equal Rights Now, an organization that was founded just after the election, partially in response to the election, with one sole purpose, which is to finally ensure that women's rights are protected by being included in the Constitution. Now, there's going to be a lot of ground that we cover tonight. And, we're going to get through as much as we can. A couple of things before we dive in. If you are new to politics, that's great. If you don't really like politics, that's also great. This is a topic that almost all of America agrees on, which is that women should be included in our Constitution as equal citizens. That's what we're talking about. And specifically tonight, we're going to talk about how. There are a lot of conversations that are going to be had about why. If any of you are already engaged in advocacy, social justice work in your communities, then you may have many of your own reasons already why this is so important to you and to so many others. But tonight we're going to be focused on the strategy and the how. Now, if you have to leave early, or if you miss something, or if you have a friend that you want to share this with later, don't worry. We're going to be posting the entire video, not just here on the YouTube channel at Political Fixer, but of course, we're going to make it available on the new Equal Rights Now website as well. Now, if you're not familiar with that brand new site, it is just a few pages right now, but it's rocking and rolling. You can go to equalrightsnow.us. That is equalrightsnow.us. Now, if you have already connected with us on politicalfixer.com, and welcome to so many of my friends from TikTok and our other communities that are here joining us tonight. If you already went to politicalfixer.com, or if you choose to go to politicalfixer.com right now and fill out the contact information or reach out to us, don't worry, that information wasn't lost. As long as you fill anything out on politicalfixer.com or equalrightsnow.us, or if you sign the petition that is found on both of those locations asking the currently the president, but we will shift that to asking the state legislators. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But if you filled out the petition, or if you have made a contribution online directly to the Equal Rights Now organization, all of that adds you to our newsletter and our contact list. And while you are free to reach out to us as many times as you would like, you do not have to do everything all over again just because we have a new website. All right, let's dive in. Let's talk about first the purpose of tonight. Twofold. Number one is strategy. As I mentioned prior, we're going to talk about the specific 5 steps we're going to take in order to get women into the Constitution. And we're going to cover a little bit about why we feel like this is effective. We're going to talk a lot more about each one of these strategy points in detail in the days, weeks, and months ahead. But we're going to touch on each one of the 5. But the second thing is connection. Right now, there is a lot happening. It kind of feels, to me at least, sometimes like things are spiraling just a bit. We've got some uncertainty with platforms. We've definitely got political uncertainty. We have our friends, neighbors, and loved ones in different parts of the country dealing with their own disasters, particularly in California with the wildfires. And there's just so much happening right now. And so connection is a big part of this. So as you're looking to get involved, I want you to consider this a little bit differently than you might look at a political campaign. A political campaign is where we all come together and we work to hoist up someone to hopefully take some sort of office of influence who then will do some good for us in return. But in this situation, the journey is almost as important as the destination. We're going to be providing a lot of opportunities for you to connect with us, for us to amplify you, and for you to connect with each other. And every step along the way, it is completely your choice as to how much you would like to do so. Everything you do is subject to a privacy policy. We do not sell or give away any of your information. And if you want to submit information to us privately or anonymously, we honor that. But that said, if you do want to use this as an opportunity to feel a little bit less alone, we are really, truly hoping that that is one of our purposes as we move forward together. Okay. So If you're looking for context or history to the Equal Rights Amendment, I think all of that is important. I will tell you that prior to getting involved in social justice and politics, I did not consider myself a student of history. I really didn't know a lot about certain aspects of history. I grew up in a small town in Texas. I'm very familiar with the Alamo and the Battle of San Jacinto, but that's when it gets a little fuzzy for me, right? And so it's okay if you don't really understand all of this, how we got here. We actually recorded just this week our very first podcast episode. We've been working on this, some of you know, for months, and that project is finally coming to fruition. Our very first Political Fixer podcast episode will be airing on Monday on as many different platforms as podcasts are available that we can get on. We've got a number who have accepted this podcast already. They've been very gracious in accepting our community as their own. And we'll also make it available for free on YouTube, on the Equal Rights Now website, and of course on politicalfixer.com. It's completely free. And in that podcast, which is about an hour, we do talk about the history, the legal status, and how we got here. So if you're looking for that information, we're definitely gonna have bigger and broader conversations on this. And I'm sure some of you have so much more to add, and I definitely want to hear from you. But definitely, we started with that context, and that new podcast episode will be available to you this coming Monday, the 20th of January. And the good news is there's absolutely nothing else of consequence that's happening on January 20th, unless you happen to be going to a community event to honor Martin Luther King Jr. You probably need something cool and inspiring to watch or listen to, because nothing's going to be on television that we want to see. So we've got you hooked up, and we're going to make sure that you have something to fill in your headspace that won't make you want to rage scream at the clouds. All right, let's start really quickly. However, even though this podcast does talk about some context, let's go ahead and fast forward to where we are with President Biden as he prepares to leave office. We have been working alongside different organizations and groups to ask President Biden to certify the Equal Rights Amendment as it stands now. We're going to talk more about that in a bit. But where we are as far as the status is, so far, it is our understanding, though things can change, and then we'll just look for a new project to do together. Wouldn't that be a nice situation to have? But assuming that things do not change, it looks like President Biden feels that by certifying the Equal Rights Amendment now as it stands, especially since our national archivist came forward and said that she did not believe that this would uphold a legal challenge, and she didn't feel comfortable moving forward. We believe he thinks this will essentially get caught up in the courts, and that it would do more harm than good to push it through now. We can debate that for sure, but this is where we are. So we are going to operate under the assumption that as of January 20th, that door will be closed, and that we will not have someone in office that is looking to move the certification forward personally. That's okay. We kind of planned on that contingency. So tonight, this discussion is to talk about, okay, what happens after the 20th and how do we get prepared for that? Again, perfectly willing to be wrong. You have no idea how much I would love to be wrong. Okay. That being said, we did do a petition drive that started on the TikTok live channel, and hundreds of you filled that out. After the 20th, we are going to make that more widely available. If you already filled it out, don't worry, you don't have to do it again. It's not a waste, even though, it may not have moved the needle with this very specific situation. We asked many of you to share your zip code with us. And the reason for that is we can now pressure local and state legislators to assist us with this new chapter in ratifying the Equal Rights Amendment. So that information is still very important. And I would argue that even more so as we're moving into this new section of working together to get women involved and in the Constitution. The signing of these petitions, that information is useful in the numbers and data that we provide to different elected officials, state and local, as well as different governors. In addition to that, then if you add your comments on here, we want to hear from you about your perspectives and why this is important to you. That also helps move things forward. And if you go to equalrightsnow.us, or politicalfixer.com and you fill out that petition, you have the option to share that information privately with us or to give us permission to share it publicly. Even if you let us share it publicly, we only do first name, last initial, that is it. We might say, my chief of staff is on here tonight, as always. Everybody say hi to Sarah. So I would say Sarah T, New Jersey, but we don't ever do anything that gives revealing or personal information, even when we are sharing your perspective. I just feel like, especially now in this climate, and because we're talking about women's issues, safety needs to remain a priority. So I just wanted to be clear. All right, let's dive into our five aspects, the five key ingredients that we believe we are going to need in order to move this forward. I am a political and crisis strategist as part of what I do. That's my core day job, in addition to bringing content and building communities with all of you. I have passed legislation federally as well as in 34 different states, primarily having to do with social justice, juvenile justice, women's issues. Those are my core things that I work on. And so this is something that we are familiar with as the Political Fixer team, and so we really worked hard to try to build a comprehensive strategy that all of you can participate in a way that you feel comfortable. And we're going to do a lot more training in the future and make that widely available for you to participate, whether it's online or in person. We'll talk more about that in a bit. But for tonight, let's just talk about those five elements, just touch on each one of them so you can become really comfortable with the plan in a general way. But more importantly, I want you to start visualizing where you fit in. So many of you have already volunteered. And one of the most common things that I saw in the responses is, I don't know how I can help, but I want to help. Yes, that is amazing. That's the energy that we need. That's what gets me up every day. And trust me, things are changing so fast that many of us no longer know what we're doing in certain ways. There's just a strategy we can apply and then work together to do our best. So don't be intimidated by that if you feel like you don't have experience or all of the answers. But as you hear stuff tonight, or whenever you're watching this, when something piques your interest, make a note of it. Let us know. Hey, when she was talking about this, that sounds like something I'd really like to do. Great. And we'll continue to find ways that you can specifically plug in and you can choose the paths of involvement that work the best for you. All right, we're going to talk about these five elements, but one thing I do want to say as you're taking your time to join us now on this amazing YouTube live space about equal rights now, I want to make sure that you understand that this should be a two-way street in your time as well. So there's a lot of ways that you can generate exposure for you, your social channels, your business, if that's something you would like. And there are ways to generate revenue. And we're going to touch on some of that in a bit as well. And we're going to explain some of that and do a lot more training. We value you. We value your voice, your time, your network, and your trust. I've worked in a lot of campaigns. We've done a lot of work with packs like what we have established now. And there are ways that you can actually generate revenue and grow the organization. So we're going to talk about that in just a bit. All right, our five steps for tonight are organize, train, amplify, fund, ratify. Those are the five things we're going to talk about. All right. So organize, train, amplify, fund, ratify. We're going to just do as much as we can now and then keep the conversation going from there. All right. I am seeing some comments going through. For example, I see Robin McCormick giving us some great information here. And Robin is bringing up such a couple of great points here. And Robin and two others, when you enter the chat, I don't always see it right away, but Sarah and the Political Fixer team, they make sure to take down what you've said and we review it later. So if I don't respond on air, it's just because I don't see it right in that moment. But I did happen to catch Robin's comments. And Robin says the ERA was first drafted in 1923. We're now 122 years into trying to bring this to fruition. Many women are not aware of this. Our ancestors started this movement and we are still in this fight. Such a good point, Robin, that education is such a big part of this. And we're definitely going to talk about that more later. But it bears saying at the very beginning that one of the things we're trying to do with equal rights now, in addition to standing on the shoulders of so many great leaders before us who have made such sacrifices and inroads. We want to honor that. We want to learn from that. And one thing that I believe that sometimes we make a mistake with as activists is we assume that people know what we know. We assume that we're coming at everything from the same perspective. And so bringing people into this conversation in a gentle way is a big part of what we're going to do. Um, Essentially, when I was talking to my producers about this movement, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later, um, one of them said, "Oh, so basically you're working to capture the Kamala joy and community and leave behind that pesky divisiveness of a political campaign." And that's exactly what we have an opportunity to do here. Now, I am a big lover of politics. I believe that politics are important and they're the engine that drives us either forward or backwards. However, it has its problems, right? And the great thing about getting involved in the equal rights movement again and trying to refresh and rehab this is that it is something that most of us agree should move forward and largely should not be a point of division. But if we're talking to someone who doesn't believe that women should exist in our constitution as equal citizens, move on. We're not going to win that argument or debate. If they don't see the value of it, if they weren't aware of its impact, then let's have those conversations. Let's bring them in and not judge and not deride, and say, "Oh, well, you might not realize it, but this." And we're going to talk a lot more about training in just a bit. But let's start with organizing. All right. So we've mentioned the Equal Rights Now website, equalrightsnow.us. I also want to say that, again, if you fill out the contact form there, if you sign the petition, or if you donate, which of course we appreciate, 100% of those proceeds go to the Equal Rights Now organization, which is publicly reported to the FEC. Any of that information we leverage to contact you. We put you on our weekly update newsletter, invite you to things like this, as well as some local events and some other opportunities to get involved. So that's our first primary point of contact, equalrightsnow.us. And then we, of course, will be mimicking a lot of that you'll see on politicalfixer.com. We want to make it as easy for you to find us and to send people to us as possible. Now, let's see. We already talked about privacy. Okay. We are building some new tools to stay connected. There's some shaky ground that's happening on our social media platforms. So, in addition to strengthening the different platforms that Political Fixer brand stuff will be on, including myself and our videos, hopefully we'll continue our TikToks as well. But no matter what happens with any platform, we're building some different community spaces as well as some ways that you can share your social handles, whatever you would like, with us so that we can connect to each other. We're rolling those out in the coming days and weeks. And so, us staying connected no matter what happens to the platforms is important. And then, us helping to grow your audience as well, so that when you are saying something of value and sharing this information, we want you to be supported as well. So, those social media connection tools are going to be made available in the coming days. And in addition, we'll be launching the official Equal Rights Now social accounts. Once those are launched, you'll be getting an advance copy of what those handles are next week. If you're on the newsletter, if you filled out any of the contact information, you'll get links to it ahead of time. And we will actively start posting on the 27th. And we'll talk about more about why we're going to be doing it that way shortly. We're also going to be doing a lot of information and knowledge sharing. We have a number of talented creators and educators and business leaders that are coming to the table who have really great resources to share. So, we are launching an academy that's free online with these training modules and videos that we're going to discuss more later. And also, we're going to be doing information sharing using primarily the Google Docs platforms. So if you're not familiar with Google Docs, that's okay. It's really easy to use. We'll make sure that people understand how to access it. But let me tell you a couple of examples of why this stuff is important. If things are happening locally, we want you to be able to share it quickly. And sometimes filling out a contact form and us sorting through those forms and figuring out what goes to who, it's not the most effective way. Though do that if in rather than not doing anything at all for sure, but we want to get as efficient as possible. So we want to have different documents that you can quickly share, headlines that you think are relevant to the cause, things that are happening with you locally or that you happen to spot nationally or even globally that could impact things, research about different things that are impacting you, as well as your ideas. This is not something where I feel or my team feels like we have all of the answers. We just felt like we needed to do something and not sit on our hands and not try. So we definitely are going to rely on your expertise and ideas. So we're going to be coming up with safe and secure ways for you to share those things. So that's primarily one of the different ways that we want to build community. So yes, social and online community, but also organizing our data and our ideas, our research, and our information. One of the immediate needs that we're going to have is understanding the complexities of all of your state legislatures. We're going to discuss in detail why in just a bit, but essentially, we need to get very familiar with them very quickly. Some of them, like Louisiana, I've worked with extensively. Jersey, I've worked with extensively, but not all of them, obviously. And things change rapidly. We just had a series of elections. 2025 is going to be a big election year for a number of you in other states. So, what we're looking for are connections you might have, suggestions of leaders and caucuses that we should be reaching out to, and also the dates that different sessions are going to be held. So, that's an example of one of the blueprints that we'll put out there for you to crowdsource that information. And so we'll give you a safe and secure way to tell us whatever information you have, and then we'll have a centralized location. Once that information has been gathered for all of you to look at and see what's still missing. So the state legislator information is going to be very important as we move forward. Another thing that's going to be important as we seek to organize is understanding who else should we be talking to and including. It could be organizations that are already working either directly on this initiative or in some other area of advancing women and equality or treating the symptoms of the disease of inequality. We want to support as many of those organizations as possible. And also, I guarantee you, they have knowledge that we could all learn from. We don't need to learn everything the hard way. On another side, we also want to meet individuals that are the movers and shakers, are online influencers, people that are doing great things in their community, just amazing women and our allies that you know that you want to bring to the table. So definitely start making those lists on your back of the napkin or your spiral notebooks or however you creatively take notes. Start thinking about who we should be bringing in whatever capacity to include them. The other thing is, who should we be platforming? Because asking people to help us is critical. This is going to take all of us, but also we want to make sure that, again, the journey is almost as important as the destination here. We want to make sure to be amplifying other nonprofit organizations, other people that are authors that have written books about this, artists who have done beautiful works portraying something related to this. As much as possible, I am not a scarcity mindset person. I do believe that positive energy attracts other a positive energy. And so I definitely know that by amplifying and sharing the stage and broadening the microphones and increasing our communities, all that's going to do is make all of us stronger, wiser, and hopefully better, because again, we're looking for community. And for me, I've loved connecting with all of you as friends as well. I feel like I'm meeting more of you every day offline, and it's just been phenomenal. And at a time that can feel really dark, I think that is going to be very critical moving ahead. All right, if you're just joining us, the topic for this YouTube Live is equal rights in the Constitution, specifically the organization Equal Rights Now. You can find more information about this at equalrightsnow.us. If for whatever reason you would prefer to go to our website directly, you can go to politicalfixer.com. I am Shauna Presley Vircher, the Political Fixer. I know many of you, but some of you are new friends and future colleagues in this quest to have women acknowledged as equal citizens in our United States Constitution. That is it. And let me talk a little bit about where I am right now. I'm actually in our new studio that's been built specifically for meetings like this and for the podcast and for other broadcasts. We'll still be doing some of the TikTok lives and other videos that you see from the other set that we have. We're not losing that. But so don't worry, Ella the cat will still be joining us occasionally. But we have this lovely new studio that's been built where we're going to be doing longer broadcasts that's more high tech and sophisticated with its sound and equipment. And hopefully, I'll be able to chat with many of you along the way and have you on some of our programming. I'm really looking forward to that. So, we're talking about our 5 pieces to getting this accomplished, this very large but very doable task of getting women in the Constitution through the Equal Rights Amendment. We have covered organizing just a bit. We are going to talk about training, amplification, amplifying each other, funding, and ratification. So let's move on to topic 2 here, which is training. This is actually one of my favorite things. I said earlier that I just think that a lot of times we don't meet people where they are when we have these important conversations. And so that tends to cause a point of exclusion, sometimes friction, and that is something we can definitely avoid. But the other thing I feel like we don't do is we don't bring our fellow advocates and community members along for every step of the way. Not all of us are good at everything. And so it's really important as we move this forward that not only are you equipped with information about this movement in particular, but if you've ever wondered how to do some of these things, let me assure you, we need more of you involved in advocacy overall. And I'm really hoping that some of this training would empower you to take more roles in political campaigns, in social justice organizations, or make your work stronger in your own communities that you're already working on. So, what kinds of training are we going to do? A lot more of these national meetings, we're going to include other people in these calls in the future, and they're going to be offering their expertise and guidance. We're looking at hosting these calls twice a month, more frequently as we have calls to action or pending legislation. On equalrightsnow.us, as well as on politicalfixer.com, you'll have calendar tools that are launching soon where you'll be able to see and schedule all of that. And of course, if you miss something, don't worry, it'll be posted at Political Fixer on YouTube as well as on the Equal Rights Now website. We're also going to be doing in person training. I'm very excited about this. One of our first training sessions in person is going to be in Austin, Texas. So mark your calendars for February 7th through 9th. And I will specifically be training on the 8th and then delivering the keynote address of the Texas State Democratic Women's Convention. As someone who decided to enter politics as a young girl in Texas who idolized Ann Richards, this is a huge honor for me. And it's such a great opportunity to hopefully meet some of you. Austin is a very cool town if you've never been. So if you can come to Austin, that'll be our first in person training. To find more information about that, you just go to tdw.org/convention. That's Texas Democratic Women, tdw.org/convention to sign up. You do not need to be a registered member. You do not need to be from Texas. You do not need to be a registered Democrat, and you do not need to be a woman. So there are no excuses except for, you might have a life where you might have a couple of things going on that weekend. But other than being busy, being awesome, there's no excuse for you not to join us in Austin and be a part of this really great training and the other trainings that are going to be happening during that convention. A number of powerful women that you are definitely going to want to meet. Now, if you would like for me or someone else on the Equal Rights Now team to come and train in your area, we can do that virtually. We can do that in person. Just let us know. If you can fill out the contact information and let us know that you would like us to do that. What are some different types of organizations that this training is ideal for? If you're already in an advocacy group, it might be a Democratic club or a women's club or some other community oriented organization. That's a great opportunity to train people on why this matters, the historical context, and what this can do for people now, what the impact would be, and how they can get involved. It is a nonpartisan conversation, though we understand the lay of the land politically right now, it is something that we can go into businesses and other organizations like that, have the conversation and not violate any of the rules or standards of those areas. We can do this in a very respectful way. I've worked in corporate training for years. So don't let the fact that this is politically adjacent deter us from having these important conversations. Campuses, I mean, we have young people that are looking to get involved. They are involved, right? Like they are the ones that are going to benefit the most or pay the highest price based on leadership decisions that happen now. And so, definitely college campuses and classrooms, seniors communities. I wish that I could go into senior communities and just, give them all a high five for the amazing work that they did the last time around when they worked so hard to try to pass the Equal Rights Amendment. But I guarantee you, there are so many seniors right now that were extremely active and passionate about it at that time. They remain passionate about women's issues. And so going into those senior communities and inviting them to re engage and to assist is very powerful and an amazing opportunity. So if there are senior communities that you're aware of, we would love to speak to them as well. And then also, if you just want a group of friends, we led the Cocktails for Kamala initiative, which then spun off into the Coffee for Kamala initiative. We had thousands and thousands of people participate. You all held some of your awesome cocktail events on your own. It just really exponentially grew. And it started from, hey, let's have a conversation about what's happening right now and how to get involved. And we were really excited about that. And we'd like to replicate that idea here for Equal Rights Now. So if you have a group of friends and you want to get together over a cup of coffee, a glass of wine, or whatever social event you would like, let us know. And we could either Zoom in and be a small part of it, or we could help you host something larger. You let us know. We can help you with it. And we would love to have a training or a meeting about Equal Rights Now with you. So, all you need to do for any of this for now, until we have all of our tools and calendar stuff built in on the site in the coming days, is just let us know in the contact form why you're reaching out to the best of your ability. And there's another shortcut here. If you don't like filling out contact forms, I get it. You can actually reach out to us as people. In fact, Sarah right now, she loves hearing from you. I'm not joking. She's the most positive spirited person in the whole planet. That's why I love having her as part of our political fixer team and now as chief of staff of Equal Rights Now. You can just reach her at sarah@equalrightsnow.us. You could just send her an email directly. It's SARAH. Though if you misspell it, that's okay. It'll still get to her. So Sarah@equalrightsnow.us, you could just send her an email directly and we will get back to you. She'll set up a time, figure out what the needs are, and we'll do our best to say yes. Quick thing on training before we move on, which is we are also working on a program to train trainers. If you're someone that wants to reach out into your community and learn how to have these conversations, we would love that. My clone machine is currently in the shop. There's only one of me, and we need everyone to be marching to the same beat here. And you're going to add your own flavor, your own network, and also your own personality to this, all of which are critical to us to make this a success. So if you're interested in being trained, we're going to be offering virtual meetings for trainings on training the trainers. Say that 3 times fast. Online courses that you can do on your own if you're someone that just needs to do it quietly at night at your own pace or on the weekend when things slow down. That's totally fine. And then we're also going to be providing materials for you. So don't worry, any slide decks or handout templates or any of that, we'll make sure that you have it. It's a really great opportunity to get out in the community, and it's an extremely worthy endeavor. So, training the trainers is something we are also looking at launching imminently. Okay, what kind of training is this? It is a brief overview of the history of the Equal Rights Amendment, the legal status of where we are now, how it benefits, like basically why should people care, what are the next steps, and how they can get involved. So it's super easy stuff, nothing really volatile, nothing controversial. Though, if you are looking to train, we'll definitely equip you with some knowledge and tools and techniques to deal with some of those frequently asked questions if they do get sticky. Don't worry about that. So it's a really fun and educational training, and that's why we tend to get these types of trainings welcomed in different spaces. All right. The final thing I just want to say about training is I want to go over some of the skills based training that we're going to be offering. I also would like to encourage you to make suggestions of other trainings you could offer or that you feel like we need. Right now, our top training modules that are on the deck to be created include how to use and leverage different social media tools. Not everyone understands that. And again, it's always changing. Fundraising. A lot of people are intimidated by fundraising, but I promise you, you can do it. It's extremely worthwhile. We'll talk about more of that soon. Organizing tools and tips that you can use not just for this, but in your own communities for your own other projects. And then also messaging. This is a big issue for a lot of different causes that have to do with social initiatives. Learning how to message something to where you provide addition and multiplication of support rather than subtraction and division is something that even some of the most seasoned politicians struggle with. And so messaging is going to be a critical component of what we provide moving forward. All right. I want to say hi to Valeria Valentine. I just saw that you signed up. That's awesome. I want to say hi to all of you that are out there, either watching tonight or watching this later. If you are just joining us, the topic is Equal Rights Now, our quest that we will be successful at finally getting women added to our US Constitution. There are going to be videos posted with this training on both the Political Fixer YouTube as well as the Equal Rights Now website. And you can always follow us on any of the Political Fixer socials. All right, let's move on to our third topic. We have covered organizing, we've touched on training. Now let's talk about amplification. And then from there, we're going to be talking about funding and ratification. All right, amplification. What we're talking about here essentially is raising public awareness that can then be leveraged as public pressure. That is essentially how you get laws passed. I know that there's a lot of civics classes, and for those of us that are old enough to remember Schoolhouse Rocks videos that tell us the technical ways that laws and legislation move through our bodies of government, state, local, and federal. But as someone who does this for a living, my personal and professional opinion is that it comes down to creating public awareness, which then develops a political will and a consensus that people want to get this done, and then applying political pressure. That's the formula. I wish it was different and that people just did things because it was the right way to do it. But you know what? This is where we are. So let's do it together, shall we? So, specifically, what is that going to look like? Our timeline, we are looking at going forward with all of this broadly, publicly, starting on January 27th. We know what the news cycle is going to be starting the week of the 20th. We had planned to start talking about this broadly in the earlier parts of the year. However, there was some last minute efforts and worthy efforts at that to attempt to have President Biden certify the amendment while in office, and we didn't want to interfere or confuse with that messaging. So instead, we decided to walk alongside the organizations that were doing that worthy work, and we are making contingency plans. And assuming that that doesn't happen prior to him leaving office, we will be launching our full social platforms, our content, and more aggressive messaging starting on the 27th. Prior to that, those of you that have signed up will be receiving an email newsletter that has all of our different socials. You can choose to connect to as many of those as you would like. And then also there will be a social media and a messaging library. It's completely free. Any of those tools and resources you want to use. You want to grab that graphic, you want to modify it and make it your own. You have your own ideas of what you want to put out there. You want to use our talking points and then run a different direction that's more personal for you. We're here to provide tools as a framework, guides, techniques, and help you to run with it in your own way. This is not our movement. We are just trying to do our best to be catalysts for this movement. So, those tools will be provided ahead of the 27th. And we would love for you to invite your friends, your family members, your social contacts, if it's appropriate, your business and professional contacts, your different groups that you're a part of to participate in this. So, What happens between now and the 27th? We have an opportunity, a rare opportunity. Politics, you don't often get a chance to actually prepare, but we have a rare opportunity to do just that. So start building those lists. Start dusting off your Rolodex and thinking about who you can call. Start, making sure you actually have login and access and passwords to all of those social accounts. Start thinking about where you're going to be posting, right? Start getting all of that stuff ready. And then on the 27th is when we're going to be posting. If you're a creator and you want to do videos, great. If you have some artwork you want to share that catches people's attention and then you share the talking point in your own way, awesome. Again, this is about you expressing yourself and reaching people in a way that you can reach them that we cannot. So all of that starts on January 27th. So what can you expect by then? We'll have some of, not all, some of the enhanced web features ready for you, including the calendar tool. We'll have the social accounts ready for you. Some talking points, though those will evolve and grow over time. And then we'll also have some more effective ways to start communicating some information, like some of those Google Docs we talked about. And again, all of this is going to grow over time, but those are our starting points. And then we'll start publicizing what's coming next and where we go from there. Also, if you are a creator, if you are an influencer, if you have a business that grows in some way beneficially from being online, again, this is a two-way street. So we are going to be launching ways for you to push out the Equal Rights Now message, but then we as an organization, we amplify you as well. That is something we're looking at having live in time for the Texas convention in the first week of February, but you don't need to be there to participate in it. Any of you that are creators or influencers or who grow your business and professional livelihoods online, there is an opportunity to grow with us, and it does not cost anything. We're basically looking at this as a way to acknowledge and honor the time that you're sharing with us and with trusting us with your network enough to share our information with them. So we're going to have ways for you to be a part of that and for people to find you and for you to connect with each other. That is very important. Now, I know that some people believe that business and social issues don't mix, but actually the numbers do not support that theory. I believe that that is something that certain people say to discourage us from speaking up for something that is right and just. So I've got some actual data from you. So this comes from the Cone Porter Novelli report, and this statistic is that just prior to 2016's presidential election, 44% of their respondents believed that corporations should say something politically or stand up for their beliefs. Just 44%. So a large number of corporations shied away from saying anything that they thought would be controversial at all, like, women should be in the Constitution. Again, do not believe this is controversial, but let's just pretend that it is for one moment. That number has nearly doubled. Now, over 81% of consumers say that they would prefer to do business with companies who are active in positive social change. I'm going to say that again. Over 81% of people believe that they would like to do business with other companies that amplify positive social change. All right. More numbers here. 89%, 89%, like almost 9 in 10 of them said they have a more positive image of the company if they stand up for strong social values. 79% of them said they felt a deeper personal connection and it made them more likely to do business with you. 86% said it had a higher level of trust for them, and 83% said that they would be more loyal to that company. So do not buy into the myth that speaking out for women will cost you your business. Quite the opposite. There are millions of women looking to make their dollar count when they purchase goods and services. And so saying that you value them as humans and believe they should be equal in the Constitution is a great way to grow your business for women consumers all across the board. So I want to make sure that, yes, we're connecting to each other, but we're also growing each other's businesses in the process. All right. When we're talking about amplification, yes, it's important to amplify each other. It's also important to amplify this in the media. We want to make this the topic of conversation by this spring. We get started on January 27th. We know that by spring, we will be one of the hot topics, which is women What's the deal with them not being in the Constitution, right? It should be one of those things that we're all talking about all the time. So, how do we get there? Yes, social posts, but also good old fashioned letters and emails to editors, to people that you know who write columns, to people who have radio shows and television shows locally and nationally, to podcasts. Like, ask them to cover this topic, ask them to do stories on equal rights for women and getting us into the Constitution. If you know writers, if you are a writer, if you're someone who creates video or journalism or news content or influencer content, if you're someone who does graphics, then we definitely would love for you to be someone that creates pieces. And then not only can we amplify what you create, but we can also give you credit for it if you would like, or you can remain behind the scenes if you like. But I love giving people credit for things, give you credit for your work, and make sure that you are amplified on our platform. So any of this stuff that you would like to contribute as far as messaging and being a part of the voices at the table, we would love that. So amplification is going to require all of us. It's going to require us amplifying each other, as well as taking this to the media, local media, as well as targeted niche media for things like radio shows, blogs, podcasts, as well as national media. So that is the kind of thing that we will start in earnest on the 27th. And one of the things we'll be doing is we'll make sure not only to provide talking points and updates, but also to make sure you all have a way to share some of the information you have about who we should be talking to in the media spaces. Okay, it's good to have all of you on here right now. I'm Shauna Presley Vircher, the political fixer. We are doing an Equal Rights Now national update. If you missed any of this, don't worry. You can find the full video on YouTube at Political Fixer or on equalrightsnow.us. And if you need anything from us, then don't worry about that either, because it's not just me and my lovely daughter's cat, Ella, who's outside very upset with me that she's not included in this broadcast. But we also have some of our Political Fixer team, namely Mia and Sarah, who are right here on the chat and who also read all of your comments and all of the information you submit on the website. So make sure to reach out to us and them, and they would love to help you. All right, we have covered a little bit about organizing, training, and amplifying. Now, let's talk about funding, but this is going to be more fun than you think. And I'll tell you why. Because there are ways that we can fund this organization, and that you, as advocates, no matter what your role is, large or small, no matter what your job is day to day, whether you work from home or you get out into the big scary world every day, no matter what or where you are, you can benefit from this. Now, let me explain why we did things this way. Again, having been part of a number of very big political campaigns, there tends to be one certain way that many of them go. They get a lot of notoriety and funding from different donors. And what happens is they bring in really big, fancy consultants from Washington, D.C., some of whom are great and some of whom are not so great. And they spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars an hour, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a month for their advice. And they tend to not compensate the work of the people who are there on the ground doing the work day to day, that candidly a lot of times got them to where they are. And that's something that I noticed early in my career that I always promised to be a part of changing. And so there's no better time than the present to do exactly that. So when we're looking and talking about this funding, and when we're looking and talking about ways that you can get involved, we're just going to touch on it this evening. But I just want to reassure you that you're not taking from this cause. In fact, you're growing from this cause. And we, as a community and our donors, would much rather that we reward and acknowledge you for what you do to help grow this movement than pay high priced consultants. No donor wants us to do that. No community member or supporter wants us to do that. They would much rather that it go to people who have similar values, who are just as passionate about this as we are. And we would want that if you are going to take time away from the people that you love and the things you love to do, or sleep, or your spare time, or whatever it is that you're sacrificing to be with us and to give to this organization of yourself, we want to make sure that we give back to you and we make that life just a little bit easier, and that you love working with us, not like, oh man, she's asking us to post again, right? So it's a win-win-win for all involved. Okay. Again, just to touch base on how this works with the funding, we did go to the Federal Elections Commission directly after the election, filed all of the necessary documentation, and we are officially registered with the FEC, the Federal Elections Commission. 100% of contributions go directly to this effort. And not only will we share with you updates on anything that's happening with the organization, but every dollar is publicly reported. You will see every dollar that is spent, and we will be held accountable to that. Now, political campaigns and PACs have a lot of leeway with how and what they can do with the dollars. That's another thing I never really loved as a political strategist. We are going to make sure that this is mission centered, and you're going to see that in every dollar that we spend. And so, as an example, when you all were kind enough, many of you, to support one of our initiatives, Voter SOS, during the election, to reach out to people in the areas impacted by the hurricane in North Carolina and Florida in particular, and ensure that their mailed ballots would still count even if their homes were impacted by the storm. We launched that Voter SOS initiative. Many of you were kind enough to film it, and to share videos, and to discuss it. And also, many of you were kind enough to fund it. And with less than $20,000, we reached every single household in both the impacted counties of North Carolina as well as those in the hardest hit parts of Florida. So we make those dollars stretch. That's one thing, being someone who grew up in a small town in Texas, we know how to stretch a dollar. So you can hold us accountable for all of that. Businesses, if you are looking for a way to get involved, another way to put that, if you would like women as your customers and clients, there are a few different ways you can do that. Number one, you can sponsor some of these trainings and these legislative initiatives to move forward. As we have those trainings, we can make sure that you are visible in the materials and in the videos and things that we create, so you can be a part of this positive messaging. You can actually sponsor video content that we put out on a broader scale, not just at localized or statewide trainings, but also national and global videos that we create that cover the broader topics. You can sponsor those video topics. And we're filming a television series. And if you would like to be a part of that television series, there's an opportunity for you to have your product or service included as part of that television series. So if any of that sounds like something you or another business person that you know should get involved in, this is really important because we know that those corporate dollars will move this initiative forward faster. We know that we cannot do this with just grassroots alone. It is not fair to the advocacy community to expect that. And by amplifying businesses who help us accomplish this mission, then we will no longer create organizations that are beholden to big, large donors that tend to dominate a conversation. That's what we're trying to avoid, those mega million dollar donors that then tend to, sometimes even with good intentions, derail good causes. Okay, so that's one thing. If you're a business, that's one way you can get, there's a few ways you can get involved. Now, if you are an individual or you are just someone who doesn't want to get your business necessarily involved in this, totally respect that. We call this doing well by doing good. Here are three quick ways that you can start thinking about getting involved and then also benefiting as a result. We are going to have merch that we are selling in a shop online that benefits directly the Equal Rights Now cause. Very excited about this. There's a lot of creative things that we've been working on, and it'll be made available to all of you. If you are an artist and you would like your design to be included in some of our merch, if you are just clever and creative and you have an idea for like a slogan or something that we should include on some of this merch, then we want to hear from you. And how that will work is you will reach out to us, hopefully, and say, hey, I know someone who's an artist, or I am an artist, or I have this idea. I would like to participate in this artist and creator program. We would then get permission from you to use, not own, just use and license your idea. And for every single one of those t-shirts, mugs, hoodies, stickers, whatever, if it has your design and concept on it, then you will get paid for every single one of those pieces. It is a small price to pay for sharing your creativity. And again, everyone benefits. Someone gets to buy something cool. You, as an artist or a creator, get to actually make a living for your amazing talent. And then the organization grows as a result of sales of really cool things. So, again, we try to create win win win. A second way that you can get involved is if you're not someone that necessarily creates merch, you just want to share cool things. We got you covered. We're going to have ways that you can share things with these personalized links. And every single thing that you share on social, if someone clicks on it and buys something, no matter what it is, large or small, if they look at something right now and then they get paid on Friday and they come back on Saturday and buy it, you're still covered. And we will make sure that you get rewarded and paid for actually sharing this information on all of your platforms, whatever you choose to share us on, your email list, if you want to get some QR codes or links printed out on business cards that you hand out, or you want to put us on your website, any of those tools will make them available to you. So sharing merch and sharing the links, that is another way that you can grow with this movement. And the third thing is we're going to be creating customized donor pages. We did this for Cocktails for Kamala. It was hugely successful. Now, to be clear, when we were doing it for Cocktails for Kamala, it went directly to the Kamala Harris campaign. The Harris campaign gave us permission to launch that initiative, and then we got permission to do official Harris fundraising pages. And it was really cool because so many of you would give us like your quote about why you supported Kamala. You would tell us why this was important to you, and we would create these customized things with customized artwork. And then you shared that fundraising page. And through this initiative, through direct contributions and through in-kind contributions, we raised over $100,000 for the campaign in just a few short weeks. So I was very excited about that. So we're going to do something similar where you have your own customizable Equal Rights Now fundraising page that we build for you with your own link, your own quote, what you would like to share with the world. And when you do so, we're going to be able to track your progress. You can even have a little fun goal meter, and we can change that, whether you're trying to raise $100 or $1,000 or $10,000. Every bit will help, and you will receive compensation based on how you help us with this effort. So lots of fun, easy ways to get involved. Look for more training on that as we move forward. Obviously, that's a huge priority for us, but it's also going to be really fun to share all of this because this is going to grow, I think, in a fun and successful way. I'm determined. Notice that I use fun and joy and positive and community a lot. Why? We've got enough people telling us that we don't matter, that we can't make a difference, that nothing that we do is ever going to work. So we need to combat that messaging with each other. That's very important as we move forward. Okay, final step. Look at how well we're doing. We're wrapping up with our fifth stage of how this is going to move forward successfully, how we are going to finally secure the rights for women in the Constitution with Equal Rights Now. And whether you've been watching this live or whether you've been sharing this later or you've been catching up on it on double speed while you're working out, God love you. No matter what the situation is, I hope you're finding benefit from this and you know that this is the start of the conversation, not the end of it. We've talked about organizing, we've talked about training, we've talked about amplification, both of each other, amplifying each other, as well as amplifying this to the media and online, funding, and now let's talk about ratification. And as we go into this final piece, again, your homework is to start visualizing where you see yourself fitting. It could be one place, it could be five places. We just want to make sure you're here at our table, right? And so that's your first bit of homework. Your second bit of homework is to start jotting down all of those great ideas you have so that we can make sure to leverage that creativity, that experience, and that enthusiasm together. And the third thing you're going to do is start brainstorming your Rolodex. Who should you be reaching out to about any of this? So let's talk about ratification. All right. So essentially, what we've got is a bickering of rules. As one of you pointed out earlier, then you understand that many people don't know what happened with the Equal Rights Amendment, that they don't understand the history, and understandably so. Let me give it to you in a 30-second boilerplate way of saying it, right? We had the Equal Rights Amendment. It was not made, it didn't make as much progress as Alice Paul and other suffragettes hoped back in the 1920s. They were able to secure the right to vote. That was amazing. However, they felt like that was what they could get at the time, that tremendous but incremental progress. Then you fast forward to the late 1960s, early 1970s, this new found wave of feminism starts to grow more popular and widespread with leaders like Gloria Steinem and Shirley Chisholm and Betty Friedan, so many others, right? And then that progress gets to the point where they've actually drafted an equal rights amendment and they take it to Congress. And now they needed to go to the states and get 75% of the states, 38 states, to say, yes, we want this in our Constitution. Now, there's a lot of reasons why that didn't happen as smoothly as they thought. And we cover that in our podcast episode that's airing on Monday, both on this platform and also wherever you get your podcasts. We talk a lot more about that history. But the bottom line is that they needed 38 states. Well, Congress set a timeline on getting those 38 states. Originally, they said it needed to be in 7 years. This was in 1972. So that would have been 1979 that was our deadline. And then President Carter, the recently departed Jimmy Carter, extended that deadline for another 2 years. Um, Even so, we did not reach the 38 state threshold. Now, here's where you get into the legal bickering. Some people are like, Congress didn't have a right to put a deadline at all, so it shouldn't matter. Other people are like, yeah, it may have mattered then, but we've got the 38 states now. We can just certify it because in 2020, the 38th state did ratify Virginia. Virginia was the 38th state, the most recent, and they did ratify. And so then there's this huge legal conversation of what happens now. We got it, but the clock expired. But should there have even been a clock? That's been the circular logic that's been happening. Now, if you take this to the Supreme Court, we all know, we can surmise what is likely to happen. In my opinion, that is a rigged game. The Supreme Court, in particular, has been very clear about how they feel about women. In fact, multiple justices have gone so far as to comment on the fact that women should not have all of our rights, particularly when it comes to bodily autonomy. Now, that being said, I am, again, from Texas. I am a lover of football. And you know what I love? Home field advantage. That's what I love. So I don't want to take it to their court. I don't want to take it to a hostile arena to play this game. The stakes are far too high. Let's take it to our homes. Let's take it back to our state legislators. Let's reset this clock. Whether it is real or imaginary, I do not care. I'm not going to enter into that fracas, right? Rather, we are going to go to each of these states. Let's start by saying that I don't want to just go to 38. Why would we let the other 12 off the hook? All right. So we're going to go to all 50 and do our best to at least get it up for a vote. I believe that we will have the momentum to get 38 states to say yes. I genuinely do. I know there are outliers. I know we always have our problem children that like to be difficult. I live in Florida. I am perfectly aware of this. However, 38, all they need to do is say they believe women should be in the Constitution. That's it. It's a very simple amendment, right? So we go back to the ones that were super excited to ratify to begin with and build that momentum. New Hampshire, Hawaii, Delaware. Texas was one of the first states to ratify. I'm so excited to be going back there. New Jersey, Colorado, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New York. These are some of the places we go to create this momentum quickly. And we get 38 states. Again, we reset the clock essentially. We need to go to each one of them and hold them accountable. We start strong with some wins. We amplify the press. We not only change momentum, we not only change visibility, but we also change the conversation. Let me explain something strange in the news that happened. I understand that right now, with this particular Congress and this particular Supreme Court and this particular incoming president, that it might not feel that we have a lot of political power right now when creating change for those of us who have been in communities that we consider to be marginalized, particularly in this situation, we're talking about women. But a strange character gave me a kind of reassurance that we can do this, which is former Representative Matt Gaetz. Ooh, you didn't see that one coming, huh? Let me explain. When Matt Gaetz was nominated for a key cabinet position by this incoming administration, it looked like there would be nothing we could do to stop it. Legally, there was no ramifications for any of his alleged misdeeds or actions. From a political perspective, there's no governance that's there of a party that looked like it was going to stand in the way. It looked like the press was going to essentially let him have a free pass based on how a lot of this stuff had been covered to date. This seemed like something that we could not stop and yet had potential horrible ramifications for certain groups. Let's just leave it at that. Yet he backed down. He stepped away. That is public pressure. That is political pressure. People in his party started saying, listen, I understand, but you're not getting this because it's going to cost me as a politician too much of my support to give it to you. That's political pressure. What we saw in the media changing the narrative and all of you forcing him to cover those stories in local and national coverage, that's media pressure. That type of thing is effective even when you feel like you don't have a lot of technical power. When you look at the points, it sometimes feels like you cannot do it, but I promise you, you can. In fact, that's the only way that we've ever made progress in this country is to continue to push and organize when the chips felt like they were down. So, with all of that said, why hasn't it happened yet? Why are we over 120 years later still talking about it? Well, there's actual practical reasons. Number one, prior to this, people have been really good at dividing women, those who stay at home versus those who leave to work, those who have kids versus those who don't, those who are married versus those who choose not to marry. Though, I mean, based on money, based on how you raise your kids, based on what type of job you have. The list goes on and on. And we have been successful at dividing women for a number of years. But one thing that I have been witnessing specifically in the last few years is how a number of different women have come together and understood that equal rights for women means equal rights for all women, including the choice to live the life you would like to lead. And so those divisive tactics are not as effective as they used to be among women. The second reason is a historical context reason. When we talk about why this didn't pass in the late 1960s and early 1970s, one of the reasons was the Vietnam War. People were convinced that if they passed the Equal Rights Amendment for women, their daughters could be drafted. And even the idea of that was so horrific at a time that we were already losing so many of our sons to that war that it really threw cold water on the momentum that that movement had built. Thankfully, that conversation has evolved, and we can be a part of educating people so that they understand that no, the Equal Rights Amendment does not say that you have to draft women. There is no draft right now, but you understand my idea of what I'm saying here. What it does mean is that women would have a right to serve if they so chose to do so. So it's that type of conversation that is dramatically different than it was in the late 60s and early 1970s. The other reason that this has not passed prior to now is that when people started bringing it up again in a collective way at the late 90s, early 2000s, candidly, many of us felt like we didn't need it. We felt equal. And this is a whole nother conversation that I'm sure we'll pick up another time. But looking around at what's happening right now, to any of us who are paying attention, we absolutely understand how certain people in power can wield that power for nefarious purposes with bad intentions. And that in so many ways, whether it's access to our healthcare, the studying of diseases and medicines and how they impact our bodies, our finances and what we're paid, the jobs and the opportunities we are provided access to, the level of education that we receive. The list goes on and on and on. In no way, unfortunately, have we achieved true equality. And I, for one, am tired of waiting for a Prince Charming to come and save us. I love our male allies. I absolutely do. But it's time for us to work together and get this done for ourselves. And of course, the thousands and thousands and thousands of allies who are out there, we absolutely welcome you to this cause as well. Now, what's our worst case scenario? What is our worst case scenario? Because as a crisis manager, I like to start there. I like to make sure that before I execute a plan, I understand what the likely scenarios are. Let's say we go through all of this. We get over 38 states. I want to get over 38 states. I believe we can do that. We get over 38 states to say, yes, add women to the Constitution. And then we've still got people that are hemming and hawing and not wanting to move forward. Guess what? Then we get a new Congress in, we bide our time and get a new president in if we have to. Whatever chips we need to move on the game board, we move them, and we will then have all of the ingredients that we need to move it forward. So maybe this doesn't take us 6 months. Maybe this takes us 2 years. Maybe this takes us 4 years. It is still a worthy fight. And when I have a daughter, she is 20. This is just the beginning of her journey as a woman in this country. I want it to be better for her. Don't you? Don't you want it better for all of our daughters? And for those of you that are educated about this issue, you understand this also makes it better for our sons. This is worth it. So our risk is that it takes a little bit more time. But along the way, we will have met some amazing people. We will have supported each other. We will have lifted up some phenomenal voices that should never have been in the background to begin with. And we will have done it all for a worthy cause that leaves a legacy for generations. And so I know that there's a lot of darkness out there, but I also know that this, I hope, can be a small point of light that you all add your flames to, and it just grows and grows and grows and outshines so much of this darkness that we're all worried about. I want to thank all of you for joining us, whether you joined us this evening or whether you are joining us later. I am Shauna Presley Vircher, the political fixer, and now the national director for Equal Rights Now. You can find me at Political Fixer. You can go to politicalfixer.com, but more importantly, I want you to go to equalrightsnow.us, and we want to hear from you. Our next plan of action is that you will be receiving, if you sign up on any of our platforms, an email update. You provide us with any information you feel comfortable with. We'll provide you with tools and an update. We will then be launching this messaging together on January 27th. And then from there, it is just the start of what I hope will be an amazing and worthwhile adventure alongside all of you. Thank you on behalf of my political fixer team, particularly Sarah and Mia, who were on tonight for all of you. And I can't wait to meet and work alongside each and every one of you. Please stay safe. Take care of yourselves, including mental care, please. Practice that self care and love. We need to take care of the caregivers. And I will see all of you very soon.